Hey. Alright. We'll knock this off quick here. Just want to squeeze this in before round 2 gets going tomorrow. Sort of today. It's close to midnight here. Just in a guest room downstairs. Thought I'd get our round 2 predictions done. Just to recap, round 1 I actually went 7-1 for my predictions. 7-1. I nailed Buffalo in 7. That one is right on the games. I had Columbus in 7. Or sorry, I had Columbus in 6. They won in 7. I had Florida in 5. They won in 6. I had Carolina in 5, and they won in 7. Chicago in 7, and I won in 7, so I nailed that one. Vancouver won in 7, and I had them in 5. Anaheim won in 5. I had them in 7. So all 7 of those I got correct for the winner. The only one I got wrong was Winnipeg pulled it out over Colorado, and they did it in pretty dominating fashion. So, what are you gonna do? Not much you can do there. Anyway, we got something on the lens there. Let's see. There must be something. I don't know what that line is. Kind of weird. Oh well. Not a big deal. Anyway. We'll go into the games here. So, yeah, the recap, it was a pretty good round 1. Some interesting results. Big scare for Wolf. Scare for me. I knew it was going to be a tight one, but you snuck it out. I was surprised how quickly Winnipeg did dismantle Colorado. Price wasn't as good as I thought he'd be, and maybe Colorado's not as good as I gave them credit. Aside from that, it was pretty straightforward. Edmonton put up more fight than I thought they would have, that's for sure. But Vancouver did manage it out, so good for them. Well, let's get into round 2. We got Chicago on the road in Winnipeg, Winnipeg being the number 1 seed. Season series was actually won by Winnipeg. Winnipeg won it 3-2. Winnipeg again won their opening round series in 5 games. Chicago won in 7. A little more worn out. You look at goals for, these two teams were number 2 and 3 for round 1. Just looking at playoff stats here now. Chicago had 3.86 goals for, and Winnipeg had 3.8. Both very offensive minded. Goals against, Winnipeg was second best in the playoffs so far, with only a 2.0 goals against. Chicago had 3.57 goals against, much higher. They were 13th out of 16 teams, not real strong on the defensive end. Power plays, Winnipeg was the 3rd best power play at 33%, versus 29% for Chicago, who was the number 4 power play. Not a lot of difference there. Penalty kill, Winnipeg was 4th in penalty kill, and Chicago had the 2nd best penalty kill at 89%. Both teams really weak in the face-offs. So yeah, not real good in the face-off circle either team. So I don't see that as an issue. We're looking at the power plays there. Something to keep in mind is Winnipeg was the 2nd most disciplined team in the first round, taking the least penalties per game, 2nd least penalties per game. So if they keep Chicago off the power play, and Winnipeg should take advantage, right? Offense was Philippe Forsberg for Chicago. 16 points leads the way. He's the leading point getter in the first round. 16 points in 7 games, so he's over 2 points a game. Very strong showing. They also had Ryan O'Reilly with 12. It drops off to Rick Nash with 8. That defensive core in Spurgeon and Leddy both had 8 points each. They get a lot of offense from their back end in Chicago. Secondary scoring for them, Tyler Bozak and James Van Riemsdyk and James Neal. They all need to really pick up the pace in order to take a chance against Winnipeg here. Winnipeg, of course, has Crosby, Marleau, 9 points, 8 points. Ovi had 3 goals first round. Horvat with 5 points. Holden was the really only defensive player on Winnipeg who did anything offensively. I think he had 5 points or something. Again, I always keep going back to Winnipeg's defense not being very good. And when Nick Holden's really your only production back there, I don't know. Sooner or later, that's got to run out. That this D can't hold up. Their depth scoring is nil from the back 2 lines. They have Braden Holtby in net versus Marc-Andre Fleury, so that's a real strong battle. With that said, the Winnipeg defense isn't solid, but I don't think that Chicago's the team that can do it. So I'm going to have Winnipeg move on in this series. In Winnipeg over Chicago, and I'm going to take them in. I'm going to take them in 5 games. I don't think this one's going to be that long either. I wasn't impressed with Chicago in that first round, and they weren't facing an elite goalie either, Minnesota. So, yeah, everybody likes to cheer against Winnipeg, but they're going to roll this series, 5 games. Look at the other matchup in the West. You've got Vancouver on the road against Anaheim. Anaheim being the favorite. Season series was a clean sweep, actually, for Vancouver. Vancouver went 4-0 against Anaheim in the regular season. 2 of those were in shootouts, but nonetheless, Vancouver owned Anaheim during the regular season. Looking at goals for, Anaheim was the highest scoring team in the first round with 4 goals a game. Vancouver was over 3 goals a game, sitting 8th, right in the middle of the pack. However, we do have to keep in mind Anaheim was facing San Jose and wasn't a very strong team, to be honest with you. It might have been the weakest team in the first round for any matchup that was there. So the goals for, I kind of, take that with a grain of salt. Goals against, Anaheim was solid there as well. 3 goals, 3rd in the league with 2.4 goals against average. Vancouver sat 12th with a 3.43 goals against average. So a bit of a variance there. Anaheim had the strongest power play in the first round as well. They were number 1 with 36.67%. They were clipping along real well. Again, against a lackluster San Jose team. Vancouver was sat again in the middle of the pack, 8th overall. Penalty kill, Vancouver's was also pretty weak there. They were bottom part of the league, 73% penalty kill versus Anaheim's 80% penalty kill. So Anaheim's holding a pretty strong advantage over those stat categories. However, looking at opponents, you got to keep that in mind too. Edmonton, much stronger team than what San Jose was. A little stronger matchup for Vancouver. So, one thing that stood out for me is Anaheim had the most penalty minutes per game in the first round. They were taking 19.8 penalty minutes a game. Clearly the worst in the league for discipline. Vancouver's got some dynamic players, so if that trend continues, Anaheim could be in trouble there. Anaheim also boasts the 2nd worst face-off percentage. And really, aside from maybe Mike Fisher on San Jose, there isn't a lot of strength at face-off there. So that's a glaring stat for Anaheim that needs to be cleaned up. Of course, Anaheim has McDavid and Vanek. McDavid at 8 points, Vanek 6, both in a 5-game series. Anton Strawman, Mike Green, and Chris Russell. 3 goals, and 2 goals respectively. Anaheim got a lot of offense out of their defense core, scoring goals. Very little from their forwards, so that's something they need to tighten up. Gustav Nyquist, for one, he really needs to be better for Anaheim. Vancouver, Huberdeau led the way for them with 8 points, as did Erik Johnson. They had Nazem Kadri picked up 7. Patrick Kane with 5. Guys that need to get a lot better for Vancouver would be Seguin. He only had 4 points. And Mark Stone, who was their leading point getter in the regular season, he only had 3 points. So that has to get better for Vancouver, and I think it would. They're the best players for a reason. The most intriguing thing for this Vancouver-Anaheim series will be what Vancouver does in net. They ran with Miller and Jones in the last series. Miller started games 1 and 2, got 2 losses. They switched over to Jones. Monty switched over to Jones for game 3. Got a win out of him. An ugly win. It was still high scoring. Jones played again in game 4, took a loss, put them down 3-1. That was the last we saw of Martin Jones. He has a goals against average of 4 and over 4 in the playoffs. And Miller rode the rest of the way for the big comeback, winning the next 3 games. So I imagine that Ryan Miller will get the start in game 1. And but Monty's proven he's a quick draw on pulling the plug. So if they get off to a slow start against Anaheim, I could really see Martin Jones getting another shot there. Anyways, battling against them will be Talbot for Anaheim. He's their clear-cut number 1 goalie. So prediction for the series, I am going to take Vancouver over Anaheim in, I'm going to say 6 games as well. I think Vancouver will win it at home in game 6. I just don't see this fairy tale ride in Anaheim going to continue as long. I think matchups play a big part of it. There's way more star power on Vancouver. Anaheim has the ultimate star with McDavid, of course, but I don't think that's enough against the likes that Vancouver can run out there. So I'm going to take Vancouver in 6 in the West. Let's jump over to the East. We have Columbus, who got a scare from New Jersey. Series went 7, but they pulled it out. They're going to be on the road in game 1 against Carolina. Wolf and his Carolina team had another huge scare in the first round. They were down 3-1 in the series, came all the way back, winning game 7. Both these teams tired and worn out, but they both were the favorites and both got it done. So division rivals. Goals for in the first round. Both were well over 3 goals a game offensively. Both sat kind of middle of the pack in that regard. Columbus was 4th in goals against, with 2.86 goals against average. Carolina had a 1.71 goals against average. That was good for first in the league in the first round. And considering they went down 3-1, that's a pretty phenomenal goals against average. So Bobrovsky was definitely not the reason. He was fantastic in the first round. Wolf just needed to get his offense going. Power plays, Columbus was second in the league in the first round, 33.3%. Carolina was 9th in power play. No outstanding penalty kills either. Columbus was 10th in the penalty kill versus Wolf's 5th in the penalty kill. Shots on goal is intriguing in this one. Wolf's team not only has a great goalie, but they also don't allow many shots. They had the least shots against in the first round. Meanwhile, Columbus allows a lot of shots on goal. They play a run and gun style. They had Columbus takes a lot of shots, but they give up a lot. So that'll be a matchup to watch. The other factor for this one could be aggression, I guess. The Columbus Blue Jackets had the highest number of hits in the first round as well, hits per game. They're going to try and beat up on the Carolina players a bit, throw their body around, try and slow down some of the speed that Carolina offers there. For Carolina, Tarasenko led the way with 13 points. Patrice Bergeron had 11. Brent Burns with 10. Guys that really need to pick it up for Carolina. Zach Parise and Claude Giroux both had 3 points each, so not near good enough. As did Shane Gottsby here, or Gottsby, whatever you want to call him. A weird guy. Anyways, he only had 3 points as well, and he's their best power play quarterback after maybe Burns, but he's got to be better as well. So the top end came through for Carolina when it mattered, but really the depth on his team didn't come through. Didn't have a successful first round like they should. Columbus's goal scoring all came from the top line or so as well. The top two centers, anyways. Barkov came out with 8 points. Pavelski was 7. Their highest point getter was actually Matthias Ekholm with 10 points from the back end. And Trouba had 7 as well, so a lot of production from the back end. For them, they should be disappointed the way John Tavares played in the first round. He had 5 points in 7 games, however, not a single goal. And Jonathan Drouin also was not very good in the first round, or Dustin Byfuglien. They both had, I think, 3 and 2 points or something like that. Just not near good enough from those guys. Crawford is the goaltender for Columbus. He went 4-1 in the first round, plus a couple overtime losses. So he played well. A couple overtime losses, nothing to shake a stick at there. So he was solid, but Bobrovsky was the man for Carolina, and he actually punched out 2 shutouts as well in the first round. So he's been really good. My prediction for this series is I'm going to take Carolina, and I'm going to take them in 5 games. I think now the Wolves team's rolling. They worked out what they needed to in the first part of that last series, and with the Islanders, and I think they'll just keep rolling from here. Columbus is a good team, don't get me wrong, but I just think there's something going on there with Carolina, the way they put together those last few games, and I'm going to say that continues. So Carolina in 5. Our final series for round 2 is my Buffalo Sabres at the Florida Panthers. And, a rival series again. This is a division opponent who I've battled with in the last couple years. Our season series was 2-2, so it was tied for the regular season. I still don't see all the hype this Florida team gets, to be honest with you, but we'll go through their stats here. Goals for. Florida had over 3 goals a game in 7th. My team was just under 3 goals a game. We were 13th though, so got to get that offense tuned up a little bit. Goals against, we were both dead heat. 3 goals against a game, sitting 6th. He had a bit of an advantage in the power play. He was clipping at 25%, and we were nearly 21%. Penalty kill, they had the best penalty kill in the first round at 90%. My team there in Buffalo was 3rd, so strong penalty kills for both teams. The difference being my team was the least penalized for the first round, most disciplined. And when you got a guy like Brad Marchand on your team, it says a lot about your team discipline. When you can have a guy like him and Chara and some of those other guys, and still be disciplined. So if that carries over, it's good to keep that Florida team off the power play. Florida also had the notes on their stuff. They had the least hits taken in the first round. So they're not a real physical team. I know with my tougher defense, I think we can be a little more aggressive than they are and maybe take advantage of some matchups that way. Both are very good face-off teams, so I don't see a real advantage there. Top point getters for Buffalo. We had Drew Doughty lead our way with 8. We had Brad Marchand with 7. Henrik Sedin with 6. Aside from that, it was a very balanced attack. We had just one player, Kevin Miller, was the only player that had no points in the first round. Scoring right through the lineup. Nick Bonino was solid on the third line. So right through our lineup, all 4 lines produced. Couple guys stand out that could be a little bit better. Matt Duchene, he was only 3 points for being a number 1 center. It's not quite enough there, so he needs to be a little bit better. And Milan Lucic was terrible in the first round. 1 single point, basically a no-show. And he was playing with Bonino, who had a real good first round. So I don't know what happened to Lucic there, but maybe unleash him a little bit, see if he can throw his weight around, and maybe his scoring will come too. So see how that goes. For Florida, they had Derek Stepan was their best player with 8 points. Patrick Laine had 7. Adam Henrique was 7 as well. He was definitely I'd say he was their best player for the first round. He had a game winner, and he also had 2 game tying goals in the first round. So anytime it was down in the nitty gritty and Florida needed a goal to win or tie, Henrique seemed to be the guy to step up and do that. So he's the guy to watch for the second round here. For them, Derek Brassard and Blake Wheeler really need to be better. They were really lackluster first rounds. Something like 2 or 1 point for each of those guys. So that'll be the key to them being a little bit stronger. They have Craig Anderson in net versus Tuukka Rask for me, of course. I like Rask better, but we'll see what happens. Prediction for the series. Can't pick Florida. Just can't do it. Wouldn't do it. Again, I still think, when Brassard and Stepan, Henrique are guys you're counting on. They got good players with Wheeler and Laine and some of their defense core. But those other guys, they're second, third line guys, and there's too many of them. My defense, I rave about it all the time. I'm still proud of it, the way it was put together. And I think that's the difference here. Turn the physicality up and a few more goals. 4. Turn the offense up as well, not just worry about the defense. And because that's kind of how we played that first round, a little bit more defensive. So prediction for the series will be Buffalo in 6 games. So quick recap. I went 7-1 in the first round. It's a good start. We're going to take Winnipeg over Chicago in 5, I think I took. I think it was 5. Vancouver over Anaheim in 6. We're going to take Carolina over Columbus in 5. And Buffalo over Florida in 6. So no 7 gamers this time. We had enough the first round. It's too stressful. Can't do it. Anyway, that'll be it for today. Didn't do this one quite live. I did it through Facebook Live to myself, but didn't need the comments and stuff because I'm just trying to knock this out before we get the series started tomorrow. So good luck everybody in the second round. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you guys soon.